At least 3 people have been killed in a 6.8 magnitude earthquake that struck the southern Philippines. The quake yesterday hit the country's largest city on the second largest island of Mindanao. A 6-year-old girl is among the victims who was inside her home when the building collapsed.
In the quiet early hours of a Saturday morning, the earth beneath the Philippine Sea stirred violently. Amidst the chaos, a tsunami warning heightened fears of dangerous sea level changes across the region. What if the next earthquake is even stronger, and we're not prepared? Join us to learn more about how these natural forces shape our world. 6.8 magnitude shakes, Caraga region. On the early morning of Saturday, August 3rd, 2024, a big earthquake hit the Philippine Sea near Caraga. The quake was quite shallow, at a depth of 26 kilometers, making it felt widely across the region. Because it was so close to the surface, the shaking was stronger near the epicenter. Luckily, despite its strength, no major damage or casualties were expected, so no specific alerts were issued. The earthquake happened close to Barcelona, Philippines, about 19 kilometers east of the town. Different geological agencies provided updates quickly, with some initial differences in their data that were later corrected. The depth of the earthquake was changed from 17.2 kilometers to 25.8 kilometers, and the epicenter was slightly moved. Volcano Discovery was the first to report the earthquake, within just 2 minutes of its occurrence. Other updates followed from the GFZ, which later downgraded the magnitude to 6.3 based on their analysis. This shows how earthquake data can change as more information comes in. Significant shaking was likely felt by communities within over 100 kilometers from the epicenter. Towns like Hinatuan, Bislig City, Baganga, and Moncayo experienced moderate to strong tremors. More distant places like Magugpo Poblacion and Mati felt lighter shaking. But the most challenging part was yet to come. The U.S. Geological Survey estimated that about 15.5 million people might have felt the quake in different ways. This included nearly 1 million people in areas where strong shaking was likely. Earthquakes like this make us think about how strong our buildings are, especially in areas with both weak and earthquake-resistant structures. Historical data reminds us that this region has had larger quakes in the past, like a magnitude 8.0 in the Moro Gulf in 1976, which caused massive damage. This earthquake was also followed by several aftershocks, which are smaller quakes that happen after the main one. These aftershocks release more of the stored seismic energy in the Earth's crust. But even though this earthquake didn't cause a big immediate threat, the quick tsunami warnings and fast response from geological agencies show how important it is to be vigilant. Quickly gathering and sharing accurate information is crucial in reducing the risks from earthquakes in the Pacific region. The real test comes in how well communities prepare and respond to these natural events. Being ready and informed can make a big difference in safety and recovery. There's a type of energy that creates ripples, spreading out far and wide, which ultimately makes the ground we stand on quiver. You might ask, what is this energy? Or what are these ripples? And why does the ground shake? It all seems quite complex at first glance. Imagine that the Earth isn't a single solid block. Rather, it's composed of about 19 to 20 large pieces, similar to a giant jigsaw puzzle. These pieces are known as tectonic plates. These plates rest upon a very hot, semi-liquid layer deep within the Earth's mantle. The heat from this layer causes the plates to shift continuously, even as you read this. Each year, these plates might only move between 1 to 10 centimeters, which might not seem like much, but it's enough to make a significant impact. Most times, these shifts are subtle enough that we don't feel them. However, occasionally the movement is forceful, sending strong vibrations through the ground. These can be so intense that you might feel the earth dancing under your feet, or, in severe cases, these tremors can level entire cities. This phenomenon is what we call an earthquake, and it happens in the lithosphere, which is the outermost shell of the Earth where these plates are located. While it's fascinating to think about, the power and impact of earthquakes show just how dynamic and ever-changing our planet is. One of the most frightening earthquakes ever recorded had a magnitude of 9.5, with the scale going up to 10. This huge earthquake hit Valdivia, a city in southern Chile, in 1960. Another major earthquake struck the Tohoku region of Japan with a magnitude of 9.0 on March 11, 2011. This earthquake caused massive destruction, destroying many buildings and taking nearly 16,000 lives. The damage changed the areas affected in many deep and lasting ways. These earthquakes show us just how powerful nature can be and how it can change our lives and the world around us very quickly. The energy released during an earthquake moves through the Earth's crust, causing not just physical damage but also emotional and financial stress. The stories of people surviving and rebuilding after such events show how strong and united people can be when facing natural disasters. But the worst part isn't just the immediate damage. It's the long-term impact on communities, landscapes, and the environment that leaves lasting scars. In the face of these powerful forces, people have shown amazing resilience and the ability to come together and help each other. The challenges they face during and after an earthquake highlight both the strength and fragility of human life. However, the scariest part is knowing that another big earthquake can happen at any time, with little warning. This uncertainty keeps people on edge and highlights the importance of being prepared. How seismographs help predict and prepare for earthquakes. Scientists use a special tool to detect and measure earthquakes. This tool picks up the vibrations, called seismic waves, that move through the Earth when there is a shift in the tectonic plates. These plates form the Earth's outer shell and float on its hot, liquid core. The device that records these vibrations is called a seismograph. The earthquake size is then rated using a scale called the Richter scale. This scale measures the earthquake's magnitude, which tells us how much energy was released. The magnitude is shown as a number, helping scientists and everyone else understand how strong the earthquake was. Measuring and recording earthquakes is very important for a few reasons. First, it helps us learn more about the Earth and how the plates move. But this isn't the most important part. The main reason is that this information helps us assess risks and get ready for future earthquakes. Knowing the strength and impact of earthquakes means we can create better building codes in areas where earthquakes are common. It also means we can make better emergency response plans and educate people on what to do during an earthquake. By understanding earthquakes better, communities can prepare more effectively and hopefully reduce damage and save lives when an earthquake strikes. But the real challenge is not just measuring these quakes. It's using this information to make real-world changes that protect people and property. As scientists gather more data, they can improve the ways we build and plan cities to withstand earthquakes. This can lead to safer buildings and fewer injuries when the ground shakes. Still, the toughest part is ensuring that everyone knows what to do during an earthquake. Public education is key to helping people stay safe. When measuring the power of an earthquake, we use a scale from 0 to 10. A 0 means almost no one can feel it, while a 10 means massive destruction and loss of many lives. To understand earthquakes better, let's look at an interactive earthquake simulator. The simulator shows different layers of the Earth. The deepest part is the inner core, a solid metal ball about 1,250 kilometers wide. It's extremely hot, with temperatures between 4,500 to 5,500 degrees Celsius. And the pressure is incredibly high. Above the inner core is the outer core, which is about 2,200 kilometers thick and also very hot. Then comes the mantle, which is mostly solid but can flow slowly. It is about 2,900 kilometers thick and makes up 84% of Earth's volume. The outermost layer is the crust, which is very thin compared to the other layers, ranging from 0 to 70 kilometers thick. This is the layer we live on, and it is just 1% of Earth's mass. But the worst part isn't the temperatures or pressures of these layers. It's how shifts in these layers can cause earthquakes that affect us on the surface. In the simulator, you can see a small town and switch to a street view. When you toggle the layers, the crust appears gray and the mantle looks reddish. In one corner, there's a control panel with earthquake magnitudes on the Richter scale. If you simulate an earthquake with a magnitude between 0 to 2, you'll barely feel it. A magnitude of 2 to 4 means mild vibrations. A 4 to 4.9 earthquake is light, while 5 to 5.9 is moderate, causing noticeable shaking. Moving up the scale, earthquakes from 6 to 6.9 are strong and can cause serious damage. But this isn't the worst part. Earthquakes above 7 can flatten cities and cause huge impacts across regions. These magnitudes are recorded using a seismograph. Let's simulate an earthquake with a magnitude of 4 to 4.9 to see what happens. The simulator will show the earthquake starting from a point deep inside the Earth, known as the epicenter, and the different types of waves it sends through the Earth's layers. Deep inside the Earth, 2 types of waves are created during an earthquake: body waves and surface waves. Body waves travel through the Earth's inner layers, while surface waves move along the surface and cause most of the damage we see during earthquakes. Body waves include primary waves, or P waves, which move in a push-pull pattern like sound waves, vibrating in the direction they travel. These are the first waves detected by seismographs because they move the fastest. Right after P waves come secondary waves, or S waves. These waves travel through the Earth's crust, shaking the ground up and down or side to side. S waves are slower than P waves but can cause significant shaking. But the worst part isn't just the S waves. When S waves reach the surface, they create surface waves, which are the most destructive. These waves can move the ground horizontally, leading to severe damage to buildings and roads. This is why during strong earthquakes, you might see roads crack and buildings collapse. Let's look at how these waves affect structures. In an earthquake simulation, a quake with a magnitude between 4 and 4.9 might damage small buildings, but larger ones might stay standing. If the magnitude is between 5 and 5.9, there is more noticeable damage. Houses may crumble, and bigger buildings can get cracks. As the magnitude increases, the destruction becomes more severe. In the range of 6 to 6.9, the damage is significant, with buildings almost collapsing and roads splitting. This simulation shows how different magnitudes of earthquakes can cause varying levels of damage. But it doesn't stop there. The closer the hypocenter, the point inside the Earth where the earthquake starts, is to the epicenter, the point directly above it on the surface, the worse the damage will be. Interestingly, new technology now allows even smartphones to detect seismic activity, which can be crucial for early warnings. Researchers are also looking at how gases like radon and thoron, which increase before an earthquake, might help predict quakes days in advance. This could give people crucial time to prepare and save lives. Innovative earthquake protection technologies explained. Nature has many ways to surprise us, and earthquakes are one of the most challenging to predict. People living near fault lines are always on alert, wondering when the next big quake will happen. But instead of just waiting, engineers have been busy coming up with smart ways to protect buildings from earthquake damage. There are several clever methods used today to keep buildings safe. One popular idea is to stop buildings from swaying too much during a quake. For example, many skyscrapers have huge pendulums called tuned mass dampers. These are heavy weights inside the buildings that swing in the opposite direction of the building's movement during an earthquake. A famous example of this is the Taipei 101 Tower in Taiwan. For smaller buildings, engineers often use a technique called base isolation. This involves placing the building on a foundation made of rubber and steel that acts like a giant shock absorber. A great example of this is a major airport in Turkey, which uses 300 isolators to reduce earthquake forces by up to 80%. But this isn't the end of the story. While these technologies are very helpful, they are not perfect. Engineers are always looking for new ways to improve. One new idea is called the vibrating barrier, which is like an advanced shock absorber. This system uses a weight supported by springs, buried under the building. When an earthquake happens, the weight moves and absorbs a lot of the energy, protecting the building. This could be used not only for new buildings, but also for old, historic buildings that cannot be changed much. Another exciting development is in earthquake-resistant materials. In 2018, Researchers at Purdue University worked with 3D-printed cement paste to create patterns that make concrete behave better during quakes. These patterns, inspired by the shells of small creatures, help spread out the stress and prevent large cracks by making smaller, controlled fractures. But the most amazing idea might be earthquake invisibility cloaks. This involves putting a series of plastic rings in a building's foundation. Each ring absorbs specific frequencies of seismic waves, redirecting the energy around the building. It sounds like science fiction, but it could mean that people inside the building wouldn't feel the earthquake at all. This technology is still in the early stages, but it shows a completely new way of thinking about earthquake protection. As we continue to come up with new ideas, the goal is to live with less fear of the next big earthquake. Even though we know a mega-quake could hit the Pacific Northwest, the progress in earthquake engineering gives us hope. We are getting better at protecting our buildings and, more importantly, the people who live in them. But the worst part isn't just the earthquake itself. It's also the worry and fear of not being prepared. With each new invention, we get a little closer to feeling safe and secure, no matter what nature throws our way. The Caraga-The subduction zone is a famous fault line in the Pacific Northwest. This area has seen many huge earthquakes over thousands of years. The zone goes through cycles where tension builds up until it suddenly releases, causing big quakes. It's been over 300 years since the last big one, and pressure is still building, suggesting another could happen any time. These earthquakes seem to follow a rough 500-year pattern, but the timing can vary from 200 to 1,000 years. This makes it hard to predict when the next big quake will occur. We're not necessarily due for one, but there's a 10% chance of it happening in the next 50 years. If a magnitude 9 earthquake hits, it would shake the Pacific Northwest for several minutes, causing billions of dollars in damage, destroying buildings, and potentially taking many lives. Large aftershocks would follow, threatening structures that survived the initial quake. Within half an hour, tsunamis could hit the coastline, affecting over 71,000 people in at-risk zones, and even reach as far as Alaska, Hawaii, and Japan. The damage to infrastructure would make evacuation and emergency responses very difficult, making the disaster even worse. But this isn't the worst part. Many older buildings in the region weren't built to handle such big earthquakes. These structures, often made of heavy materials without enough reinforcement, are likely to fail. Additionally, standardized earthquake response plans were historically lacking. There's good news and bad news. While a catastrophic megaquake is possible, more immediate threats come from shallower earthquakes, like those on the San Andreas Fault. These quakes happen more often and pose a big risk, especially to cities like Seattle. Despite these challenges, a lot has been done to prepare for earthquakes. Scientists have been mapping hazard zones, including areas prone to tsunamis, landslides, and soil liquefaction. This helps guide emergency planning and community readiness. Building codes in the Pacific Northwest have been updated, and older buildings are being retrofitted with steel supports. New constructions often feature advanced technologies like base isolators to absorb shock. But there's more. Evacuation routes are clearly defined to help people find safety quickly. Early warning systems like Shake Alert are being developed to provide precious seconds of warning before the shaking starts, giving people time to protect themselves. The most important safety tool is community education. By understanding the risks and knowing what to do, people can greatly increase their chances of survival. For example, when a huge earthquake hit Chile in 2010, residents knew to move to higher ground before the tsunami arrived, saving many lives. In the Caraga-The region, regular drills and tests help people remember what to do during an earthquake or tsunami. Resources and guides are widely available, providing vital information on how to prepare. While we can't predict exactly when the next big Cascadian quake will happen, our growing knowledge, technology, and community preparedness mean we can be ready to face it, reducing damage and saving lives. As we consider the ferocity of a 6.8 magnitude earthquake near Caraga, how prepared are we really for the next big shake? Like and subscribe for more.